What is the worst place on earth to live? Yep, my vote would be Eritrea or Somalia. Do not ever go there. Humanitarian worker here. I've been to Hargeisa, Somaliland, the autonomous part of Somalia. Surprisingly, I found it bad but much less dangerous than South Sudan. South Sudan is hell on earth. They no longer have electricity since gaining their independence, and it's truly survival of the fittest. It is the most dangerous city in the world. Gaza Strip doesn't seem like a very hospitable place right now. What's the worst thing you've seen at a wedding? Outdoor summer wedding in TX. The groom's 90-plus-year-old grandmother died during the reception. They found out when she couldn't be roused for family pictures. Outdoor wedding. Bride gently fed wedding cake to her new husband. Groom shoved cake at his new bride's face so hard that it broke one of her teeth. He kept pushing her until she tripped and fell over backwards. She broke her wrist when she tried to stop the fall. There was blood dripping from her mouth. The groom's father then began to beat the living shit out of his own son. Good times. Edit. For those inquiring if the couple is still married, we were staying overnight at the small bed and breakfast at which the wedding took place. The mother of the bride invited us and some other hotel guests to the wedding and reception. We have no idea what happened after that day. Oh God, my boyfriend's oldest brother's wedding. One of his mates got plastered, lost control of his bowels, and shat himself. In a kilt, picture the scene, on a dance floor at a working man's club in Glasgow. A drunken 40-something standing by himself in an ever-expanding circle of people looking at him in horror, whilst an equally expanding puddle of shit gathers on the floor. On his calves. On his shoes. Yeah. Edit to add. My boyfriend remembered something which I had totally forgotten. When the shit began to hit the floor, the groom looked over, saw what was happening, and shouted, "For f***'s sake, Mick, get to the f***ing toilet." The drunken shitter wailed back, "Ah, can't he move? It's coming out too fast." The boyfriend compared it to watching a cow laying out a cow pat. Yeah. The pastor went through and updated the bride's name in her script, but didn't accurately change the script for the groom. Sometimes he was John, others Matt, occasionally Mike. The groom had to say, "My name is Steve," when the pastor said, "Repeat after me. I, David, take you." I used to be a wedding registrar. I conducted one wedding where the bride's father had passed away the year before. The ceremony was held outside in a venue's walled garden. Upon entering the garden to take their seats, the guests were met by a skeleton, which was dressed up in the father of the bride's clothes and asked to shake his hand. It was an overcast day, had rained earlier, but weather was clearing up. Bride and groom went to take some photos after the ceremony. A kid, probably 6 or 7, unsupervised, ran up to a puddle the bride was carefully walking past and jumped in it. Her dress had mud splatter all the way up to her shoulder. I felt so bad for her. If you could call yourself 10 years ago and speak for 1 minute, what would you say? The winning numbers for the March 19, 2014 Powerball are 2, 19, 23, 34, 43, and the Powerball is 14. If there's time enough after that, I'd advise myself to buy GME when it goes below $3 and wait for the fireworks on January 27, 2021. It would take the whole minute to convince myself that I was me from the future. Hang up immediately. I would not jeopardize meeting my wife, my marriage, and my 2 little boys. Whatever happened needs to happen again. Hey, your life is about to start. Dad is about to die too. So go visit him and realize, in his own screwed up way, he really does love you despite the mistakes he's made. Oh, and say no to the love of your life. Mom's dying. She'll never get better. It will be slow and painful for her in so many ways. You have to move on. Take care of her as best as you can, but find things to do with your life. Go work at a pet store or learn to weld or something. I love you. Write down the Bitcoin wallet password and buy some more. What do you think every person should experience at least once in their lifetime? Being loved by someone unconditionally. Addendum, I want to specially say that you should not expect anyone to love you unconditionally. If someone do, they either love their idea of you or they don't understand themselves. With that being said, I still think everyone should experience once how it feels to be loved by someone unconditionally. Temporarily being fully alone. When I moved to a new city alone and didn't know anyone, it was the loneliest I've ever been. But that time taught me so much. Being raised by 2 loving parents, missed out on that by a mile. Which occupations are filled with people who have the worst personality? It's like a magnet for power-hungry egos and backstabbing schemers. Can't trust half of them as far as you can throw them. I used to work in events, and we hired our spaces to people from many industries. By far, the worst clients were from fashion. Wanted everything immediately with massive discounts, and they were extremely demanding. A very don't you know who I am kind of attitude. I understand that to get into that industry, you essentially have to work for free for several years, so only trust fund kids make it. As a marketing, I'm an introverted person, and the amount of loud people who think they know it all in this profession is crazy. Corporate execs have the highest rate of psychopathy. Yep, CEOs, financiers, lawyers. Sociopaths excel in those jobs because they often lack empathy and don't feel bad about screwing other people over. Edit to say, I was not implying that all CEOs, financiers, or lawyers are sociopaths, but that you have a higher likelihood of encountering a sociopath in those fields versus others. Investment banking, in particular the successful types, can be difficult. TSA agents are usually the worst mix of surly and dumb. If your life were a book, what would be the title of the current chapter? Don't read this. It's boring. Mistakes were made. Lessons were seldom learned. How high is too high? It's relapse and recovery, not just relapse. Part 3. Single men and women in their 30s who live by themselves. What it's like. It's okay. I get lonely sometimes, and if there's a creepy noise in the night, I have to decide whether to pretend I didn't hear it or actually go look. But I don't have to compromise on anything. I watch whatever show I want for as long as I like. I cook what I want, sleep when I want, decorate how I like. But yeah, sometimes I get a little lonely, like when I drop something and go, oops, and realize that's the first time I've heard my own voice since I got home from work the day before. Oh my God, going to get groceries on a Sunday and realizing your voice is raspy when talking to the cashier because you haven't said anything for the whole weekend. Yikes. Oh no. Not bad. I am my own master and do almost anything I want. I am lonely, however, and sometimes feel like my life has no point. Rarely lonely, always alone. I live in a remote area in the mountains with my 2 dogs. When I want to socialize, I go to the pub. It's great, but God, it's so expensive. It's also way too easy to get complacent and not keep yourself accountable to working out and socializing regularly. I'm honestly worried for my future self. Quiet but repetitive. You need to be well motivated and have hobbies, and a dog helps. I think a lot of folks in this position are doing it for mental health reasons. Not everyone is cut out for a life partner, and some of us are okay with that, though Western culture and economics make it increasingly difficult to be alone. The cost of living has gone above the normal salary, so you don't get as many chances to go above and beyond, like going on vacations or visiting people out of state, etc. You're just spending your money on rent. I'm in an abusive relationship with my cat, but other than that, it's good. She yells at me all the time and bullies the hell out of me, and I just take it. How have you cheated death? When I was still a fetus, my mother suffered a heavy injury to her stomach, causing the death of my twin, but I survived somehow. The doctors basically told her she must stay bedridden for the rest of the pregnancy, or else she would lose me too. So my grandma got her SNES, and she just played video games all day. I still have that SNES. In 1977, while I was rushing to catch a bus, a man stopped me for change of $1 to use a payphone. I gave him change, missed my bus, and minutes later it was in a horrible highway accident. I was chatting away with a bunch of friends in high school, standing in a pedestrian-only street. Suddenly my friend's face goes blank, and she reaches out and pulls me in by my collar, without a word. A huge truck whooshes behind me, right by, not an inch to spare. It thundered by at full speed. I didn't even hear it until it passed me. She didn't have time to say anything or panic, just casually pulled me away from certain death. Very grateful for her quick reflexes. I was dead for around 6 min at the bottom of a pool, and they revived me. Not sure it fits, but one time when I was like 13, I was messing around with my brother and a friend of us. Being teenagers with nothing to do on a hot summer day, we decided that we had to destroy something. Me and my brother had this shelter with a bunch of crap that nobody used. So we started destroying pieces of wood, chairs, and things like that with a big-ass hammer. At some point, we had the brilliant idea to throw this hammer against a plank of wood and try to break it. It was my turn, so I throwed it against the piece of wood, and it f***ing bounced back, missing my head by a few centimeters. Had it hit me, I would probably be dead right now. We stopped doing shit like that immediately. For that day. I had a screening for something else, and my doctor found very early-stage cancer at age 34. It was removed painlessly and completely in an afternoon. It's a cancer that usually affects people over 60 and doesn't have symptoms until it's too late. If I didn't have this other screening, I likely would have died a painful death from it in 10-ish years. When the doctor first called to give me the results, he said it was divine intervention and never gave me the results of the test I came in for. Congenital heart defect, WPW, completely unknown until 35 years old. I was playing board games with a small group. Vision narrowed until I came to looking up at EMTs. They had taken turns doing CPR for 14 minutes until medical arrived and shocked me 3x to bring me back. One surgery and defib install later, and everything is pretty much normal with a cheap med. Had I been driving or at home alone, that would have been it. Those 4 guys don't pay for beers ever when we go out. Edit, grammar, and now spelling. Well, that's another episode of Ask Reddit in the books. I really appreciate all of you who made it this far into the video. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, it would really help the channel out a lot if you gave the video a thumbs up, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.